Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Planetarium live stream. Thanks for tuning in tonight on this lovely Monday evening on January 9th, 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. I am Patrick Hess, Planetarium Manager at Union Station, and today we're going to be taking a little tour of our seasonal night sky. We're going to be previewing some of the amazing astronomical events that'll be happening this year, and I'll also be touching on some news highlights over the past few months of some major discoveries in the world of astronomy. One piece of news that broke just today, hours ago, so exciting to share that with you all. I want to thank our supporting sponsor, MRI Global, for keeping this program and many others at Union Station going. And thank you to all of our watchers tuning in tonight. This is a live stream if you're watching at 6 p.m. Central on January 9th. So chime in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Say hello. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, put those in the comments as well. We already have a couple people tuning in. We've got Tim saying howdy, Diana saying hello, and Kathy saying happy new year, hello, and happy new year to all of you. Rachel says happy new year, Patrick, as well. Right back at you, Rachel. So keep the comments and questions coming. I love to hear where everybody's tuning in from, and of course all the questions. Oh, Tammy, one of our top fans, is chiming in from Iowa. Thanks for joining us tonight, Tammy. So great to see you as always. If you're a first-time watcher, first of all, this is our 90th live stream, which is pretty incredible. And don't worry, if you have FOMO, you can find all of our past live streams on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/KCPlanetarium, where you can find recordings of all of our past streams, our seasonal star tours, as well as some deep dive programs we did back in 2020 and 2021. Those were hour-long presentations about a variety of topics, and I've curated those into playlists for you. So if you want to take a tour of our solar system or want to learn about different sky cultures, different constellations from around the world, you can find all those and many more on our YouTube channel. Over 77 hours of content. We've got Diana watching from Olathe. Thanks for tuning in, Diana. Christina says hello from Excelsior Springs, and Cindy chiming in from Olathe. Thank you all so much for watching. A lot of great comments tonight. So great seeing everybody checking it out. We got Trey saying, Patrick, what's up? Right back at you. And good to see another familiar face here. And let's go ahead and the comments are still coming. Excellent. We've got David chiming in from Topeka. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Keep the comments coming, and we're going to jump in. Just a couple little housekeeping notes. The planetarium is back open to the public. We were closed for a week in early January, which we do every year for training and maintenance. We've got some new educators on the training path to working in the planetarium soon, so you'll be able to check out their amazing star tours in the near future. But we reopened on Saturday, and we are now open Tuesday through Sunday, so closed to the public on Mondays. And we've got a great slate of shows for you. Destination Solar System is our tour of the solar system, and that one was one of our most popular shows last year. So if you haven't seen that yet, be sure to check that out. And then, of course, we have our seasonal star tour available as well. One other quick note, in early February, the first week into February, we will be kicking off this year's run of laser shows. So our evening laser concerts are going to be announced soon. I don't have any details about the shows for that, but rest assured, some of your fan favorites as well as some deep cuts may be making an appearance. So be sure to mark your calendars February 3rd and 4th for those evening laser shows, and the schedule will be announced soon. A bunch of people still in the comments chiming in. Beth watching from Plattsburgh, Missouri. Thanks for tuning in, Beth. Chase from Alexandria, Virginia. Happy New Year. Right back at you. Stacy's watching from Blue Springs. Thanks for tuning in. Diana is a first-time watcher. So great to have you tonight. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and let me know if you have any questions. And we've got Natalie greetings from South Kansas. And Jerry saying Happy New Year. Great to see you here tonight, Jerry. And Christina says, my summer camp kids loved it last summer. Excellent, Christina. So glad you liked it. I'm guessing you're talking about the show. And I hope you'll come back and check out another one of our shows this summer. Maybe we'll have something new. Who knows? Well, we're going to jump right in because I've got a lot of fun stuff for you, but keep the comments and questions coming, and I'll be checking back in periodically to see what everybody has to say. But for now, we're going to jump right into our star tour. So we are going to do a little tour of our seasonal night sky. And we're going to be doing a little preview for our winter skies today, as well as a general preview for everything that's going on this coming year. A lot of cool astronomy events We've got Beth, by the way, watching from Plattsburgh, and Laranne saying hi from New Smyrna Beach. Thank you both for tuning in. And Laranne, I hope the beach is treating you nicely down there. All right, so we are in Stellarium, which is our planetarium software that you can get for yourself on a Mac or PC. And we are looking at the lovely Kansas City skyline. Our clock is at noon today, so I've rewound time a little bit because, spoiler alert, the sun has currently set on Kansas City, so we want to start in a view of our daytime sky. We've passed the hibernal solstice, or winter solstice, so the days are finally getting longer, thank goodness, although the weather is still pretty chilly. We're right in front of the Liberty Memorial here in downtown Kansas City, and the sun is still pretty low in the sky, but it is starting to peak out, and as the days go on, it'll be higher and higher in the sky as the days get longer. The vernal equinox, or spring equinox, will be Monday, March 20th, and by then, the day and night will be at equal lengths, and then after that, days will be longer than night until the estival solstice, or summer solstice, on Wednesday, June 21st. So let's go ahead and face south. I do love our beautiful Kansas City skyline, but we are going to go ahead and remove it because the Liberty Memorial is pretty tall and blocks our view. So we're going to pick just sort of a flat, foresty or flowery area, I guess. This makes you think of spring. And we're going to fast forward time. The sun will be setting tonight a little bit after 5 o'clock, so we want to speed things up here. And while we're waiting for the sun to set, Beth is watching from Plattsburgh, Missouri, and Jerry says the planetarium shows are all very good. Well, I'm so glad you said that, Jerry, and I appreciate you coming to visit us in person, as well as for supporting us online. So there we go. Sunset is going to start around 5 o'clock, but sunset takes about an hour before the stars really come out and that twilight leaves us. And so we'll spend our tour this is a good time, right around 6:15. And we are looking south. Actually, I want to put our cardinal directions there. There we go. So that's the southern sky. And then we've got north over here. Now, I actually want to start over in the south because I want to jump right in and let you know about a very exciting thing that's happening in our night sky tonight. But first of all, I want to point out something about the stars. Now, you probably notice here in our view, our simulation of the night sky, that the stars are twinkling. Now, their twinkling's a bit exaggerated in our software, but you've probably seen stars twinkle in our real night sky. Now, the reason that stars twinkle is because they're very far away from Earth. And by the time a distant star's light finally gets to our planet, only a tiny amount of the star's light is able to pass through the Earth's atmosphere. And our atmosphere makes that light sort of wobbly. And that's why doing astronomical observations here on Earth can be difficult since the atmosphere distorts light that may be coming from distant objects. But astronomers do have techniques to mitigate that. But for us looking at the sky, it'll make the stars appear to twinkle. But, and I probably sound like a broken record 90 streams in, especially for our returning viewers, but you probably know that not every object in the sky will be twinkling. In fact, there are a few points of light tonight, 4 of them actually, that you may notice are not twinkling. And they're all sort of lined up here. We've got one setting over in the south or northwest over here. It's kind of behind the trees. Another one a little bit above it. Another one higher in the sky, and then another one over towards the east. Those 4 points of light are not twinkling, and those are the planets. So we can see 4 planets in our night sky tonight, and these are the 4 planets that are most easily visible to the naked eye. In fact, there are only 5 that are even possible to be seen with the naked eye, but Mercury is a bit trickier. We have Mars over rising in the east, Jupiter up in the south, and then Saturn and Venus in the west. And you see Venus is there behind the trees. Let's rewind a little bit. Now, the planets aren't always visible in our evening sky, and they're usually not visible all at once. Now, the planets are orbiting the Earth at their own speeds, and this is why they're always in a different spot year to year. That's actually how they got their name. The word planet means wanderer in ancient Greek. And so the planets will sort of wander around the night sky. But right now, 4 of the most visible planets happen to be all up at once in the early evening. Now, Venus will be setting pretty early, but Venus is so bright that it often outshines twilight, and even before the sun finishes setting completely, you'll still be able to see it. Another cool thing about Venus is that Venus is closer to the sun than the Earth, which means Venus will appear in phases. So if we zoom in on Venus, we can see that it's sort of in a gibbous phase right now. So it's more than half full, but not quite completely full. Sometimes Venus will appear in a crescent phase as well. Now, we can see these 4 planets up, but you'll notice that Venus and Saturn will be getting closer together over the next few nights. And then on January 22nd, just a couple weeks away, Venus and Saturn will actually pass right by one another. We can simulate this by pulling up our little time control unit there. And so you can see as the days go on, Venus and Saturn are going to get closer and closer and closer together until on the 22nd, they will pass right by one another. We call this a conjunction. And you can see here that if you have binoculars or a telescope that are able to resolve the rings of Saturn, which you don't need that powerful of a telescope or binoculars to do that, you'll actually be able to see these potentially in the same field of view. Pretty incredible there. So you can see Venus will actually appear sort of smaller in diameter, angular diameter, we say, than Saturn, because Venus is kind of far away from us right now. But it's still very bright. It's very, very reflective. And so there they are. So that conjunction, again, will be happening on January 22nd. And then moving beyond that, you can see Venus will go past Saturn. And then eventually Venus will have a conjunction with Jupiter as well. That'll be happening a little bit later in March. March 1st will be then. But for now, we're going to return back to our present sky on January 9th. Then I'm going to check into the comments. If you have joined us late, this is a live stream. So let us know where you're watching from and if you have any questions as well, or if you have any shout outs to make. We've got Vonda saying, first time watcher from the Northland. Well, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Diana is loving this. Well, thanks, Diana. I'm so glad you're enjoying yourself. James and Donna, another familiar pair of names, are chiming in. It's great to see you both. They say, I so love this every month. Watching from KCK. Thanks for tuning in tonight, as always. Casey, another one of our top fans and longtime watchers, says, hello again, Patrick and fellow astronomy lovers watching from Gladstone. So great to see you, Casey. We've got James saying, howdy from Maryland. James, thanks for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoy the show tonight. And we've got Christina saying, this is great. You are great, Christina. And this night sky is great. By the way, Uranus is labeled here. Uranus is not visible to the naked eye, but if you have a powerful enough telescope, you can potentially check it out. Okay, we got KJ tuning in from Warrensburg as well. Thanks for watching tonight. All right, so that is the most exciting thing. Now, if you come visit our star tour, our live star tour called Sky Station Live at Union Station at the Planetarium, then we are actually flying to 3 of these planets in 3D at the Planetarium. So I'm going to go ahead and save that for your next visit to the Planetarium in person, because we have a lot of ground to cover. And I want to just briefly touch on one of the constellations rising in the east in our winter skies. And it is the brightest constellation in all the night sky, so you might already recognize it. It's Orion the Hunter, my favorite constellation, and it's the main reason why I prefer stargazing in the wintertime, even though I absolutely do not like the cold and much prefer summertime. But Orion is up in the winter, so we stargaze in the winter. And Orion, we can see Orion's famous belt, these 3 stars, outlined by the 4 stars around it. These 2 stars down here are Orion's feet, and up here are his shoulders. Now, this little cluster of stars is Orion's head. In one hand, he's holding a bow or a shield, and the other is sort of lifting a club or a sword. So let's see if we can't get the lines on here. I used to know how to get the just Orion on. There we go. All right, we'll call that good. Oh. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. So there is Orion the Hunter. Now, in Greek mythology, Orion was a legendary hunter and hero. He was well known around the world back then, they say, but he also liked to brag about his skills. So one day Orion boasted that he was such a good hunter he could capture every animal on Earth if he wanted to. Now, the story goes that when Artemis, the Greek goddess of the hunt, she heard this boast, she became very upset with Orion naturally, so she decided to punish Orion by sending a giant scorpion monster down from Mount Olympus to battle Orion and teach him a lesson. And their battle, it is said, was immortalized in the night sky as the 2 constellations Orion and Scorpius chase each other through the seasons. Scorpius is a summer constellation, so they never quite catch up to one another. Now, Orion is an interesting constellation. As I mentioned, it is the brightest constellation in the night sky. So you might imagine, as you might imagine, there are a few notable bright stars in this constellation. For example, we've got this star in the upper left-hand corner that's sort of a reddish-orange color. Its name is Betelgeuse. And then we have a star in the lower right that's sort of a bluish-white color, and this one's called Rigel. Now, Betelgeuse and Rigel are interesting stars, but the reason I wanted to point them out is because of their colors. So you can see here that they do appear very different in their color, and that is how they'll look in real life as well. And all the stars actually appear in a variety of different colors, and the color of a star is actually a very important tool that astronomers can use. So astronomers have a tough job. When they're studying things really far away, there's not much data you can collect about a star. After all, if you look at a star through the most powerful telescope in the entire world, it still looks like a tiny speck of light. So what can you measure about a star? Well, you can measure their brightness relative to each other, and then you can use techniques to calculate their distance and to figure out how bright they are in real life. There's an apparent magnitude, which is how bright they look to us on Earth, and then there's the absolute magnitude, which is how much light they're emitting themselves. And then you can also look at their color, or more specifically, the wavelengths of light they produce. So what sort of wavelengths of light are they emitting? And by comparing those two values, you can actually learn a lot about stars. So when you put these two values together, you get an interesting diagram called a Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, or HR diagram. And you can kind of think of this as the periodic table for astronomers. It's not the exact same, but it's a very important chart that astronomers can use, so you can think of it that way. And basically, so comparing their color and their brightness or luminosity, you can learn a lot about the stars. And more specifically, when astronomers plot them out, they actually can see the evolution of stars. So stars often begin very hot and young, and Rigel is a very hot young blue star. And then they're very bright and very hot. But as they cool and as they get older, they sort of go down this track called the main sequence. And then they'll cool down and become more yellowish, and then they'll cool down even more and become more orangish. And then certain things happen, and the stars will change in size, and they'll puff out into a giant star, a red giant or a supergiant. And then, depending on how big the star is, they may turn into a white dwarf. So basically, just comparing the colors and brightnesses of stars, we can learn a lot about stars. We can figure out how old they are, what they're made of, things like that. And I just wanted to point that out since Orion does have a few bright, colorful stars here. Betelgeuse is a red giant star nearing the end of its life. In fact, a couple of years ago, while we were live streaming, we did track some developments around Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse was actually getting dimmer, so some people thought that it may be going supernova, which it will do sometime in the near future. It got brighter again, though, so we think maybe a cloud was passing in front of it. And also, when an astronomer says the near future, they mean anywhere in the next million years. So it's going to be a while, but sometime soon, quote unquote soon, Betelgeuse will go supernova. Uh-oh, I said Betelgeuse 3 times. Now, another fun fact about Orion is that this star in the upper right corner is named Bellatrix. If there are any Harry Potter fans in the audience, you might recognize that name. And the author of Harry Potter actually named a bunch of characters after stars. The Black family, for example, is named after a bunch of different stars. And actually, if we fast forward time a little bit here, the brightest star in the sky will be rising right behind Orion, and there it is, and that star is named Sirius. You can draw an imaginary line through Orion's belt, and that's how you can identify Sirius there. Sirius is the brightest star in the sky, and it's also nicknamed the Dog Star. It's part of a pair of dog constellations, and Harry Potter fans may now recognize why that character was named Sirius. Now, the last thing I want to point out about Orion is that it has my favorite deep space object, and that is the Orion Nebula. So first I should point out, so below Orion's belt are 3 dimmer stars. Some people call this his dagger or his sword hilt. But this part of the constellation is hiding the Orion Nebula, which is a dazzling deep space object, and it is a stellar nursery. It is a birthplace of new stars. This gas and dust is getting pulled together by gravity, and new stars are being born inside this nebula. Now, we don't have much time to talk more deeply about it, but we do visit the Orion Nebula and discuss more about how stars are born during our live star tour. So come by the planetarium and check out Sky Station Live, and you can learn all about stellar evolution, the birth of stars. All right, y'all. So let's check into the comments and see how everybody's doing. Remember, if you are watching live at 6:20 now on January 9th, 2023, then give us a shout out and let us know if you have any questions. We've got Adam saying, James and Adam tuning in for the first time. Having a great time, thanks. Well, I'm having a great time with you, Adam and James. So I hope you guys continue enjoying the stream. And remember, if you have any questions, throw them my way. And Jamie and Ruth are tuning in as well. Thanks for watching. Tonight, Casey says, I love seeing all the images from the James Webb Space Telescope when it first came online. Seems like I haven't seen anything new in a while, though. Is there a website you'd recommend to keep track of the latest releases from Webb? Well, I'm glad you asked that, Casey, because we are definitely going to be talking about some new discoveries over the past couple months that Webb has produced. There are a bunch of different websites. I'll just answer your question now since you asked. Webtelescope.org is the easiest one that has sort of the best gallery, I think, the gallery experience of looking at just a variety of different pictures. Webtelescope.org, I would definitely start there, and you can get some great phone and desktop backgrounds from that website. But like I said, stay tuned, everyone, because we are going to be jumping into some astronomy news updates, and I'll be definitely talking about the Webb Space Telescope in just a minute. One quick note, though, and this is sort of a combination with our What's Up part of our stream of our star tour this season, because there is a comet that may be visible soon. So this is Comet E3 ZTF, which stands for what does it stand for? It stands for a number. Oh, there it is. I'm on the wrong website. So ZTF there is the name of the observatory that discovered this comet, which I thought I read. Oh, there it is. It's the Zwicky Transient Facility. That is the facility that discovered this comet. Unfortunately, comets these days are often discovered by sort of robotic telescopes and sky surveys, so they don't really have nice names like they used to when there was just a couple astronomers who would discover them. Although Zwicky, the Zwicky Transient Facility, is named after an astronomer named Fritz Zwicky, which was one of the pioneers for the study of dark matter. There's a fun fact for you. But anyway, back to this comet. This comet, it was actually discovered back in March of last year, and it has recently gotten brighter in the night sky, just in time for its closest approach to Earth in the next few weeks. So it's right now it's still too dim to be seen without a telescope, but that may change as this chunk of ice hurtles towards the sun and starts to sublimate, which means the solid ice will start to evaporate and turning straight into a gas, creating its tail. Now, this particular comet has an extremely long period. A comet's period is how long it takes to orbit the sun. Comets come from the outer reaches of our solar system from a region called the Oort cloud, and their periods vary in length. Some of them come back relatively frequently, like Halley's Comet comes around every 75 to 79 years. But this comet E3 won't be back until the year 52,023. So hopefully it'll be visible, and hopefully we'll be able to see it. It may be as bright as Comet Neowise, which graced us with its presence back in summer of 2020. And people in the Northern Hemisphere may be able to spot it in late January. So here's its path that it's going to be following. Perfect. And so right now it's moving from west to east. And right now it is kind of behind the Big Dipper. And it's going to be moving across the sky. And then basically at the end of this month, it'll be between the Big and Little Dipper towards the north. So we don't know if it will be bright enough to be seen with the naked eye. It may just be barely bright enough, so you'll probably have to plan on getting very far away from the city lights. You can look up a light pollution map that'll help you find a good spot to observe. And we'll try to keep you updated on our Facebook page too, with how viewing conditions change. By the way, if you're watching on Union Station's Facebook page, at the end of the stream, be sure to go over to the Planetarium's Facebook page and subscribe to us there so you don't miss any future astronomy updates. That's facebook.com/KCPlanetarium. So again, we'll be tracking this comet as it moves across the sky. Here's another cool website that has a bunch of data about this comet as it is tracked and its current location, but most interestingly, way down here, it has a nice 3D map of the comet's location. So right now it is above the Earth, if there is such a thing as above in space, but it will be passing at its closest approach to the sun pretty soon, and that close approach will be pretty close to the Earth. So if it develops a tail, it should be a spectacular thing to see. By the way, one last little plug. We did an entire live stream about comets. In fact, I actually made a comet from ingredients you can buy at a grocery store in my living room, my old apartment. That live stream was all the way back on July 13th of 2020. So if you want an entertaining show about how to make your own comet from grocery store ingredients, check that one out. We can post a link to it. And then also be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube while you're there. That's youtube.com/KC Planetarium. So tracking that comet, hopefully it will be visible soon. So a couple other things to note and keep track of. Let's just go ahead and do this. Oh, where'd my Zoom go? There it is. So I just want to give you a little preview for some astronomical events that'll be happening coming up this year. So I mentioned a Venus-Jupiter conjunction on March 1st, where Venus will pass by the gas giant planet. That'll be visible after sunset. There is a number of supermoons. Supermoons are when the moon is closest to the Earth in its elliptical orbit and happens to be full at the same time. Usually there are 3 of them every year. And the first will be on July 3rd, where the moon will be about 15% larger and 30% brighter. And then on August 1st, there will be another supermoon, and August 31st will be a super blue moon, plus a Saturn opposition. This will be quite a good event. A blue moon is just the second full moon in a single month. It's not actually going to be blue, it's just a rare event. That's where the term once in a blue moon comes from. And this blue moon will also happen to be super. And Saturn will also be at its closest approach to Earth, where it will be most visible at that night. So that'll definitely be something to check out. And then actually there are 4 supermoons this year. That's exciting. On September 29th would be the last supermoon. You're getting a look behind the curtain, by the way. This is my personal notes for the stream, and we are planning on doing some events, special stargazing events for many of these, including the partial solar eclipse, which will be happening on October 14th. So this one will be very exciting. Let me see if I can pull up more details about this particular eclipse. It's going to be a partial eclipse, which will not completely block out the sun like the one in 2017 did, but it will still be pretty spectacular. And here's a great website showing us this eclipse. So on October 14th, the moon will move partially in front of the sun. So it'll basically look like this from Kansas City. So you'll still need special sunglasses to see this event, but we are planning on hosting an event at Science City, our science museum at Union Station. So if you want to have a whole day dedicated to this eclipse and see it for yourselves, then recommend checking that out. So that'll be something to check out this year, and that's the last exciting thing that I wanted to preview. Of course, there will be many space launch missions that will be taking place this year, but a lot of those dates may be changing, so we don't have a preview of that. There won't be any major NASA launches in the Artemis program, which we tracked last year, and that was the mission back to the moon. The next Artemis launch will hopefully be in 2024, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we are about to share some breaking news that was just announced hours ago about the closest galaxy to ours, our sister galaxy, Andromeda. So stay tuned for that. But first, I'm going to check over into the comment section and see how everybody's doing. Cheryl's watching for the first time. Thanks for tuning in, Cheryl. Hope you're enjoying tonight's show. Let me know if you have any questions. Andrea says, geeking out right now. Right back at you, Andrea. Always love a good geek out over astronomy. Tom says, hello from Tom and Amanda in Hartselle, Alabama. Thanks for watching tonight, both of you. So glad you're joining us. And we've got Becky tuning in from New Mexico. Excellent. I love seeing everybody watching from all over the country. Casey says, while I don't miss pretty much anything about 2020, same. The one thing I do miss was the weekly live streams you were doing. I know, Casey, those were a lot of fun. We did a live stream every week. Also, every week I produced an entire show about a specific topic in astronomy. Quite frankly, I'm not sure how I did that. I think I counted it up. I did like somewhere close to 50 of those deep dive streams, but it's pretty incredible. But don't worry, you can watch all of those if you want. In fact, if you pick one every week, then it'll just be like a new live stream every week. That was a lot of fun. That was also at a time when everybody was trapped at home, so people were looking for things to do. But I do reminisce about that as well, Casey. Rachel says, I missed the 2017 eclipse due to cloud cover. I know it was a cloudy day over the country, Rachel. I'll have to check out this partial eclipse for sure. And don't worry, because there's another total eclipse that will be visible close by. The closest point will be the Boot Heel of Missouri, and that'll be next year in 2024. So you'll be able to see a total eclipse nearby pretty soon. All right, so as I said, we have some breaking news. A new discovery was announced about the Andromeda Galaxy, which is our sister galaxy. You can see this galaxy with the naked eye, actually. It is way up high in our winter sky. It's near the zenith, which is the highest part of the sky, straight above you in the early evening. But some new discoveries were announced, and this discovery was of a new structure inside or close to the Andromeda Galaxy. And so let's bring up this brand new image that was just shared. This structure, found in M31, which is the code name designation for the Andromeda Galaxy, is an O3 emission arc. O3 is a specific wavelength of oxygen that astronomers like to observe, and this structure is right here. It's this big blue streak right above Andromeda. So here's the Andromeda Galaxy, and this is on a number of wavelengths. The red colors here are hydrogen, and the hydrogen that you see in the foreground here is actually in our own galaxy, all these red cloudy streaks. Then the little dots of red are inside Andromeda here. And these groups of hydrogen are star formation regions. And then the blue areas you see here are, all the blue in this picture are readings of oxygen in this distant galaxy. Now, you may think, oh, that's breathable planets, but what we're really seeing here are stellar remnants. So when stars die, they leave behind a bunch of different elements. Often oxygen is one of the most prominent ones. So we can see some stellar remnants here. But this streak here is the new discovery. We hadn't seen this before. This is a gigantic structure nearly the size of the galaxy. Now this structure could be a segment of a galactic supernova remnant, a huge stellar explosion that left behind this shock wave. Could also be part of an ancient galactic planetary nebula, which is the remnants of a smaller mass star. But the most likely theory that astronomers have announced is that this arc is either close to M31, close to the Andromeda Galaxy, and was formed by massive interactions of stellar and tidal streams due to galactic mergers around M31. So galaxies near Andromeda kind of crashing into each other and causing shock waves. Or the other theory, and this is my favorite theory, and I hope it is, that this arc could be halfway between us and Andromeda, so halfway between the Milky Way galaxy and Andromeda. And this could be the first evidence of an interaction shock of the galactic collision that is imminent between the Milky Way and Andromeda. So we know that Andromeda is moving towards our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. It's heading for us at about 68 miles per second, which sounds pretty fast, but it will take about 4 billion years for our two galaxies to actually crash into one another. And when that happens, they'll merge and form a new galaxy. But it's still a long ways off. However, this could be the first evidence that this collision has already begun, and the interstellar medium surrounding our galaxies is beginning to interact. So pretty amazing stuff. Now this particular discovery was actually made thanks to a cooperation between both amateur astronomers who were just taking pictures of the night sky with their telescopes, experimenting with different light filters, and professional scientists who share their telescopic data with the public around the world. And by combining that, we were able to make this new discovery. So here's the raw data that was adjusted to match the other exposures, and by combining all of this information, we can learn so much about these galaxies and learn about the imminent collision with our galaxy. So you can see, as I mentioned, these little blue dots are planetary nebula and supernova remnants, the evidence of oxygen formed during the death of massive stars. There are some other interesting structures that have been seen before, but there's a giant pillar of oxygen, and then there's sort of almost a flower petal looking outburst of oxygen there. And we're just starting to study all of these interesting structures of our sister galaxy, the closest galaxy to us, the closest spiral galaxy to us, Andromeda. So pretty incredible picture. I just love seeing anything new about our sky, and Andromeda is such an iconic feature of our night sky that seeing this new data is really incredible. So hope you all enjoyed that little announcement, some breaking news, a new discovery made about our galactic neighborhood. All right, everyone, let's check in to see what's been going on around the world of astronomy and science discoveries. First, in the comment section, we've got Jerry asking, what happens when two galaxies collide? Great question, Jerry. And there are simulations that kind of show us what it'll look like. And I'm going to pull one up for you so you can see it for yourself. Let's see here. All right, let's pop this out. All right. So, let's check this video out. So, I'm just going to scrub through this in case it's copyrighted. But this simulation will show us what... Ooh, it's not going to let me do that. That's all right. What our galactic collision will look like. Galaxies are made of billions of stars that are all kind of loosely joined together via gravity. And when our two galaxies collide, it looks like it'll be pretty violent. But stars are so far away from each other that there's very little chance of any two stars actually colliding with each other or anything like that. So what'll happen is our galaxies will actually pass through each other, kind of like ghosts. And eventually our two galaxies will merge and form a new supergalaxy. The color will change too as the stars age. It'll become more yellow. It'll also change its shape. It'll become an elliptical galaxy. And we've seen evidence of a lot of other galactic collisions out in space too, so we can see what the results of these collisions are in other galaxies. So, long story short, we'll be fine if humans are even around by then, but it'll be pretty spectacular, and the night sky will just get all jumbled up as the stars sort of swirl around. All right, so let's jump in, and actually, I just wanted to cap off the topic that we discussed last month, which was mostly all about Andromeda. And the Artemis, the Artemis 1 mission. So the Artemis 1 mission was a success. This was the first NASA mission to go back to the moon. It was uncrewed, but it was the first test of the Space Launch System and Orion capsule, and it worked. They went around the moon, it came back, and they are taking apart the capsule now and studying it. But there are some fun Easter eggs that I meant to tell you about last month that I wanted to share now. So these Easter eggs, let's try to zoom in here. There we go. That's too zoomed in. So these Easter eggs are little nerdy things that NASA hid in the capsule. And I wanted to just kind of showcase some of them. For example, there was binary code hidden all over the capsule. The binary code for the number 18 was placed on top of the pilot seat as a tribute to NASA's Apollo program. The Apollo 17 mission was the final Apollo mission, and Artemis is sort of the spiritual successor to those missions to the moon. Also, a little post-it note with the first few notes of Fly Me to the Moon were pasted there. That's Fly Me to the Moon. I wish I had my ukulele now. I could sing it for you. So that's just kind of a fun little tribute to Frank Sinatra's classic song. There is also a cardinal tribute that is a tribute to Mark Geyer, a former Apollo program manager who died in 2021, who was a devout St. Louis Cardinals fan, according to NASA. There's also another special code that is a tribute to the Orion Deputy Program Manager, Charlie Lundquist, who died in 2020. He was a key player in the development of the Orion capsule. And then there are some numbers here that that signify various countries in Europe that were partners for the Orion spacecraft construction and design. That included Germany, Italy, Switzerland, France, Belgium, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Spain, and the Netherlands. These are the country codes for those countries. So some fun little Easter eggs hidden there for the Orion capsule. Right now, they are taking apart the Orion capsule. We did have a question last month. Somebody asked if they're going to be reusing the Orion capsule, and I wasn't sure then, but I do know now that they're reusing some parts from it, specifically 8 avionics boxes, as well as one of the crew seats. But the rest of it will be pretty much totally dismantled so they can study every inch, every millimeter, and make sure everything works for the next version of Artemis, or of the Orion capsule that will fly aboard the Artemis 2 mission. Artemis 2, by the way, is currently scheduled for a May 2024 launch. That's next spring. However, the need to recycle and refurbish components from Orion that flew on Artemis 1 will likely push this back to late 2024 or even the first quarter of 2025. So don't hold your breath for next year. It'll probably be 2025, but that will be the first crewed mission of the Artemis program, where four astronauts will fly aboard the Orion capsule and Space Launch System to the moon. They will circle the moon and return to Earth, so they won't be landing and walking on the moon. That will happen hopefully in 2026. But those 4 crew members have yet to be named. NASA says they will be naming them early this year, so stay tuned for that. Jerry says, singing and learning, nothing better. Absolutely, Jerry. Maybe one of these days we'll do a musical live stream. Rachel says, I hear Phoebe. Oh, yes, Phoebe is chirping away in the other room. The sun is setting, so it is her night time. But she is saying hello to everybody watching. Phoebe is my 2-year-old cockatoo, for those of you who don't know. Occasionally she makes a surprise appearance in our streams. Probably not tonight, though, because, again, it is getting to be her bedtime. All right, so just a couple other little news tidbits I wanted to throw your way. And here's a fun interactable that you can mess with yourself. We can post a link to this. This is a map of the universe. So watch out, Google Maps. This will replace that. No, it won't. But this does. This is sort of one of the first visualizations I've seen that actually maps out in scientific detail our observable universe. So let's just kind of walk through this. This is a map from the Milky Way to the edge of what we can see. So not the edge of the universe, just the edge of what is visible to us. And so astronomers have been observing millions of galaxies over the years, and they've compiled 15 years worth of data from the Sloan Digital Sky Survey into this interactive map. And this map includes hordes of cosmic objects like luminous blue quasars and red elliptical galaxies. An astrophysicist at the Johns Hopkins University named Bryce Minard said, quote, astrophysicists around the world have been analyzing this data for years, leading to thousands of scientific papers and discoveries, but nobody took the time to create a map that is beautiful, scientifically accurate, and accessible to people who are not scientists. Our goal here is to show everybody what the universe really looks like. So each point on this page is a real galaxy in its actual place. And observations from the telescope in New Mexico that was part of this survey captured about 200,000 galaxies, each filled with billions of stars and unknown worlds. And the data includes more objects than the 200,000 displayed, but if researchers showed them all, the map would be an unnavigable sea of dots. So this is what deep space looks like. And here's sort of a condensed map with different sections. Let's actually go over to this page and explore the map. There's a little tracker on the left-hand side showing us how far away we get, or how back in time we get, because the light that we are seeing in these distant galaxies has taken so long to get to us that we are essentially peering into a time machine when we look this far away. So this map is a simplification, but the alternative would be pretty overwhelming to try to map these all out in 3 dimensions. So this is a nice way to just kind of visualize it and give you an idea of the basic structure of these things. So we can scroll up and travel through the universe back in time. We can see elliptical galaxies I mentioned earlier. These are older galaxies that are yellower and a lot brighter. They're farther away. And then we get redshifted galaxies. Light. Not only is the universe very big, but it's also expanding, which means that as galaxies move away from us, their light is shifted towards the red end of the spectrum. And that red shift causes these galaxies to appear more red. That's the reason for the Webb Space Telescope's infrared imagery is it's able to look back in time even further by looking at galaxies that have been shifted outside of our visible spectrum. We can even see quasars, which are massive black holes located at the center of certain galaxies, and they become extremely bright and can be seen across the universe way back in time. And then we get redshifted quasars that are even further away, and some of these date back to the very beginning of our universe. which we call the cosmic dark ages. And then we have the edge of the observable universe, which is the cosmic microwave background, which is the leftover radiation from the Big Bang. So pretty cool, something you can definitely explore yourself, and we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot more detail here. You can even see this view from the sky. Pretty cool, something to kind of play around with and have fun with. So be sure to check that out. Rachel's asking, why did it take NASA so long to return to the moon? Why are they taking such a cautious approach with Artemis? Well, that's a great question, Rachel, and it's a question that probably has a lot of answers. NASA is a political organization funded by the government, so politics are always involved, you know, every 4 to 8 years, a new president is elected, and they often have their own ideas and plans for space, and so plans change and plans have to be scrapped or restarted. So it's taken a little while. We also haven't had a great reason to go back to the moon. The space race was largely political as well. We were wanting to prove that America was better than any other country. But after the space race, there was a lot more international cooperation. Some people say that we're sort of entering a new space race, some with the original players of that 60s space race, and there are some new players as well. So perhaps we're going to start competing with other countries there, and that'll push NASA to work a little bit faster. There's also the privatization of space. So there are private companies like SpaceX or Blue Origin that are working on making space even cheaper and more accessible, and they'll be helping with this journey as well. Jerry asks, how often does the planetarium update the night sky shows? Good question, Jerry. Technically, they update every single day since the sky is changing every day. But the real answer that you're looking for is that about every month or so, some new content is added and some old content is taken away. A couple of new constellations, maybe a new deep space object. And then every 3 months, a new seasonal shift will happen. And so if you come back once every 3 months, at least you'll get a brand new view of the night sky completely. But if you come back every month, you get an updated view of the night sky so you can track how things are moving around between the seasons. All right, so we did have a question about the Webb Space Telescope, so we're going to jump into the segment I like to call Webb Watch. Let's check out some new discoveries made by the Webb Telescope over the past couple months. Here's a cool one that popped up actually all the way back in November, but we haven't really had time to talk about it. And this is a really amazing picture showing us how the Webb telescope brings a once fuzzy galaxy into focus. So this is a side-by-side shot of two different instruments. One is the Spitzer telescope and one is the Webb's imagery. Now the Spitzer Space Telescope was launched in 2003 and the James Webb Space Telescope was launched last year. So you can see how things have improved slightly. I mean, just the incredible detail we're getting in here. Again, this is the exact same region of the sky with our new imagery versus the old imagery. This particular galaxy is called it's a dwarf galaxy. It's the Wolf-Lundemark-Melotte galaxy, or WLM. It's an isolated galaxy about 3 million light years from the Milky Way and roughly 10 times smaller than the Milky Way. This galaxy was first discovered in 1909, although it was only identified as a galaxy about 20 years later. Its galactic halo is about 8,000 light years across, and it's thought to be fairly ancient. Now, we think WLM, this galaxy, hasn't interacted with other systems, which makes it a really nice testing ground for our theories about galactic formation and evolution. Many of the other nearby galaxies are intertwined and entangled with the Milky Way, which makes them harder to study. But this galaxy is isolated, and so we can learn a lot more about it without getting other things in the way, basically. Another interesting and important thing about WLM is that its gas is similar to the gas that makes up galaxies in the early universe. So it's fairly unenriched, chemically speaking. That means it's poor in elements heavier than hydrogen and helium, and this makes WLM super interesting, and that you can use it to study how stars form and evolve in small galaxies like those in the ancient universe. And so this is just a portion of that galaxy, by the way. The galaxy itself is pretty unassuming. It looks just like a big blob. So that picture is just sort of a zoomed in picture right there. So that is a pretty amazing comparison shot from Webb. Another excellent discovery that Webb made is, let me zoom out here a little bit more. That's good. Alrighty, so a paper was just published confirming the oldest known galaxies discovered by Webb. Now, Webb's main mission is to peer back in time and to look for galaxies that existed near the beginning of our universe. And a paper was just published citing evidence that shows that surveys with James Webb Space Telescope have discovered galaxies that likely formed in the first 400 million years of cosmic time. Now, 400 million years is a long time, but the universe is over 13 billion years old. So we're talking about galaxies that were formed in the first 2% of the current universe's age. Imagine the universe being 24 hours old. Well, these galaxies formed in the first 30 minutes. The properties of these distant galaxies prove that initial conditions for understanding early galaxy formation and cosmic reionization. Or they provide initial conditions for understanding. Basically, what that is saying is that by studying these distant and ancient galaxies, we can start to understand what happened after the Big Bang. How did all of this disparate heat and energy coalesce and start forming matter and start forming galaxies? So these galaxies, again, are ancient. One of them may even be 350 million years old, which is even older. This is just the start of this data. And what we're seeing here is the redshift amount. So this Z amount is the measure of redshift. So it's basically, like I mentioned before, because these galaxies are moving away from us, their light is shifted in the spectrum towards the red, towards sort of the red side of the rainbow up here. And then we can measure how shifted they are, and then use some constant data that we know about the rate of expansion of the universe, and we can calculate how far away they are and how ancient they are. So that's what these redshift values are. Some of the largest amount of redshift that we've ever seen. So some of the most distant and ancient galaxies we've ever seen. So pretty amazing stuff. Webb mission is continuing. I just read some information that claims that the launch for the Webb telescope was so successful and so precise, it used a very small amount of fuel, which means that its original mission, which was only rated for 5 to 10 years, will likely last for the next 30 plus years. So this mission will hopefully be extended for a very long time, just like the Hubble telescope's mission, which was only meant to last about 15 years. It's now gone on for 30 years. So Webb's imagery and discoveries will continue to amaze us for sure. All right, everyone, we've got a couple last news stories I want to touch on. So we'll be, now is your chance to start putting your final comments and questions in the comment section. So let me know if you want to say anything before we finish. But let's check over to the red planet Mars, where a really cool piece of data, or a piece of video, I should say, was captured. And this video shows clouds and dust storms on Mars. I wanted to find a bigger picture. There we go. That's what I wanted. So there are two cameras aboard the Mars Express orbiter that captured a series of images in 2019. And these images were of some dust storms near the Martian North Pole. This series of images were captured over the course of about 70 minutes. And they were officially captured on May 29th, 2019. The storm moved at an approximate speed of 20 meters per second. Now, analysis of these images indicates that big clouds of dust on Mars formed similarly to water vapor clouds on Earth, which is an unintuitive finding, given how different our planets are. So Mars's atmosphere is about 1% as dense as ours. It's a lot colder, and there's a lot less moisture in it. And so most of its clouds and weather patterns are dust on the surface of Mars. But these weather patterns reminded scientists a lot of the weather patterns on Earth. So they compared some of these pictures of clouds between the Earth and Mars, and not just looking at photos, but they took some scientific data measurements and compared them as well, and they found many similarities. So now, as I said, most of the clouds on Earth are obviously not dust. They're voluminous collections of cold water vapor. And on Earth, they form because the water cycle and conditions of Earth's atmosphere. Mars' atmosphere is much colder and, as I said, about 1% as dense. But the planet still has clouds, a structure of which we're still exploring and learning more about today. Agustin Sanchez Levaga, a planetary scientist at the Universidad del País Vasco in Spain, said, quote, "Despite the unpredictable behavior of dust storms on Mars and the strong wind gusts that accompany them, we've seen that within their complexity, organized structures such as fronts and cellular convection patterns can emerge." So basically, we are seeing weather patterns on the dust storms of Mars similar to weather patterns of the water clouds on Earth. So a lot more to learn about Mars, and new discoveries continue to be made to this day. Oops. Also, Mars, I've got a fun clip to share with you all because the Perseverance rover, one of the rovers that landed on Mars recently in 2020, took some audio recordings on Mars, and they recorded a dust devil, or a Martian tornado, basically, a tornado of dust and sand, or soil particles on Mars. And so the researchers were working with a microphone aboard the Perseverance rover, and they recorded the sound of this passing dust devil. And the audio was enough, actually, for the scientists to determine the characteristics of this Martian whirlwind, which crossed right over the Martian rover. So this event occurred on November 27th, 2021, but there's a lot of data that rovers collect, so that's why a lot of these discoveries are only announced much later. But they took they also took images of the dust devil in question, and the team's research described the convective dust-loaded vortex, and they published it in a journal recently. So one of the scientists said, quote, "With this dust devil recording, we can hear not only the wind, but also hundreds of grain impacts. This demonstrates that the microphone can directly observe the process of dust lifting and characterize the conditions under which such lifting occurs." So you want to hear it, probably. So I'm going to go ahead and mute our background audio and let us listen to this dust devil. All right, so we're going to play that there. Make sure we can hear it. There we go. Oh, there it is passing over the rover. And then the other end of the storm passing over. So at the center of that audio was sort of the eye of the storm. Let's start it over there. So there's the dust devil passing and the pictures. And we'll just listen to that again. So it may seem not much. Obviously, it sounds like wind blowing. But again, this is wind on Mars being recorded by a robot on Mars. So pretty incredible, I think. And again, they used this sound data to learn a lot about this dust devil. Based on their analysis, the team found that the dust devil was about 82 feet wide and at least 387 feet tall, a pretty massive structure. It took about 8 seconds for the devil to pass entirely over the rover. In the audio, the team was able to hear wind from both walls of the vortex and the quiet in the eye of the dust devil and the impacts of individual grains of dust as they collided with the rover. So, pretty cool, I think. And now you can say that you listened to a dust storm or a dust tornado passing by a Martian robot. Pretty cool, right? All right, in the comment section, we've got Rachel saying, "Are there any notable audio recordings from Mars?" Other notable audio recordings from Mars. And not really. There have been recordings of previous rovers like singing happy birthday to themselves by moving little motors, which is kind of sad. But there have been recordings of other dust storms too, but we have never recorded a dust devil passing right over a rover. So nothing notable. I mean, there's not much to record, no aliens talking, but that's a good question, and I might have to look into that and see if there's any other fun ones we can listen to on future live streams. Casey says, "Looking forward to what James Webb Space Telescope will continue to show us down the road. I appreciate you doing these live streams and keeping us all up to date with the latest and greatest news. Thank you, Union Station and Patrick, for all you do." Well, thank you, Casey, and thank you to everyone who's been watching tonight. Your support means so much to me, and your comments especially, because for me, I'm staring into a black void, and it's always nice to be reminded that people are on the other side watching. So thank you so much to everyone who has commented. And just a couple more news stories, and we'll be wrapping up soon. Oh, Tammy's asking, how often are there dust storms on Mars? Good question, Tammy. And they happen pretty frequently. But again, because Mars' atmosphere is so thin, even if you were standing on Mars, it wouldn't really affect you that much. But interestingly, Mars does have seasons. So Mars has an axial tilt like the Earth. And so Mars does experience periods of cold and warmth, depending on the hemisphere you're on, and that does affect weather patterns on it as well. So they happen pretty often, but interestingly, not every rover has experienced dust devil. In fact, the InSight lander, which we'll talk about in a minute, I was reading, actually never experienced a dust devil. And it was on the other side of the planet, so maybe it was just in a region that geographically or geologically prevented some of these storms. So again, as we discussed earlier, Mars does have similar weather patterns to Earth, even though its atmosphere is quite a bit different. All right, so I mentioned InSight, and I do have some sad news because NASA has confirmed and declared that the InSight Martian lander its mission is concluded, and unfortunately the rover has died. So they had a press release at the end of December announcing that the InSight lander mission has run out of power and the mission is over 4 years and a month after the probe landed on Mars. So this probe was not a rover, it didn't have wheels, but it landed on Mars about 4 years ago, and its main mission was to study Martian earthquakes, or Mars quakes, I guess, and to study the inner contents of the planet. One thing we don't know about Mars is if it has a geologically active core. We know Mars doesn't have much of a magnetic field, which the Earth's magnetic field is caused by the molten rock at the Earth's center churning around. And so if Mars doesn't have an active core, then that could be why it doesn't have as much of a magnetic field. And the InSight lander was meant to study that. But unfortunately, as the picture here shows us, the InSight lander, unfortunately, was covered in quite a bit of dust. And because it didn't have any dust devils flying over it, that dust really never got blown off. And so this mission actually had quite a few difficulties. There were some problems with its instrumentation as well. And like I said, it got covered in dust pretty quickly. But it did provide a lot of science before we lost contact with it on December 15th last year. In total, InSight detected over 1,300 Mars quakes during its 1,440 sols on Mars. That's a Martian day. And it sent nearly 7,000 images back to Earth, such as this sunset on Mars. By the way, this picture doesn't quite show it that well, but Martian sunsets are blue and the sky is red in the daytime. So you can learn more about the InSight mission on NASA's websites, but we do have to say farewell to the InSight lander, but it provided us some amazing science. All right, our last news story, not really a news story, but something I just wanted to share, but this is your last chance to comment, so if you want to say anything, throw those into the comments now. But this is just kind of a fun thing I wanted to share. Have you ever been so angry at the world that you just wanted to throw an asteroid at it? Well, now you can. Somebody has created an asteroid impact simulator, which you can play with for yourself, which we can post a link to for you. But let's check it out now. So this asteroid impact simulator lets you destroy the world, basically. There are hundreds of thousands of asteroids that lurk in our solar system, and of course there are many space agencies that track these asteroids, but there's always a chance that one will suddenly appear on a collision course with our planet. So you might wonder what would happen if an asteroid impacted. So we definitely want to go over to Kansas City and check this out. And this simulator lets you pick different things about the asteroid. We can pick different types of asteroid materials, or comets even. Let's pick a comet, for example. And you can go up to a 1 mile diameter. Now, Comet Neowise, which I mentioned earlier, was 3 miles across. Comet E3, which is passing by in the next week or so, we don't know how wide it is. We'll get that information soon. But let's just pick the biggest comet we can and send it on a normal speed. And, well, let's just crash it into the planetarium, why don't we? So there's the planetarium at Union Station. And let's see what happens. Let's zoom out a little bit. So we're going to launch the asteroid, and it will create a crater for us. The crater will be 7 miles wide. And, well, most of Kansas City is gone. Now this simulator will tell us all sorts of things. For example, 100,000 people might be vaporized, and the crater will be 2,000 feet deep. and the impact will be equivalent to 43 gigatons of TNT. We can also see how big the fireball would be, and you can see here it would be quite a bit. So if you happen to live out near Parker, Kansas, or maybe Knob Noster, Missouri, your clothes would catch on fire. So quite a lot of impact there, and then there would also be a very loud shockwave, and so you know, your eardrums probably would not feel very good, and buildings would collapse, and then of course there would be crazy winds, 1,000 miles per hour near the impact, and then a very, very high magnitude earthquake would be felt for quite a distance here in the Midwest. So play around with that if you are feeling morbid, but don't worry, because we do track many asteroids that are near Earth. And there was an asteroid redirect mission, a test mission that confirmed that if we found an asteroid soon enough, we could divert its course by crashing a small spacecraft into it. So don't worry, we are probably safe from these asteroid impacts. But if you do want to learn more about asteroids or other topics in space, then be sure to go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/KCPlanetarium, where you can find all of our past live streams. I did an entire live stream about asteroids and other minor planets or small objects in our solar system. That was on November 9th, 2020. So check that out, and check out all of our other past shows as well. But for now, we are going to start wrapping up tonight's stream. So let's check back into the comments for our last comments. Rachel says, thank you for continuing to do these live streams for so long. They're a bright spot in my month. Well, Rachel, I'm so glad that you continue to tune in and you are still enjoying yourself. I'm still enjoying myself too. This is our 90th live stream, which is pretty incredible. That also means that this year we should be hitting 100 if all things go well. And we will see where we go from there. But for now, we are enjoying these. We've got another Rachel saying, I love space. And so do I, Rachel. I loved it so much I made it my entire job. Casey says, Fireball definitely roasts my house. I know Casey is famous for barbecue, but I don't think that this is what we want for smoked meat. LOL. Absolutely, Casey. It would definitely make some pretty burnt ends. That is for sure. Cheryl says, very creative, ... Yes, a little morbid, but you know, learning about these things can give us an appreciation for being safe here on Earth and how rare those asteroid impacts are. And Jerry says, phew! Very glad that we are not getting impacted by any of these asteroids soon. Rachel says, I respect for the restraint in targeting the planetarium instead of, say, an X's house. Don't worry, Rachel, there were many X's houses vaporized in that impact. And on that note, we are going to start wrapping up tonight's live stream. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. One minor housekeeping note, it is likely we will be skipping next month's live stream. We do have a private event in the planetarium on the first Monday of February, and then also it's football season, and I don't know about you, but I'm crossing my fingers for those Kansas City Chiefs, and I think people might be a little bit preoccupied during that time, so we probably won't have a live stream in February, but to tide you over, here's a surprise appearance from our live stream mascot, Phoebe. Hello, Phoebe. Phoebe, can you give everyone a scratch? Scratch? She's not gonna do it now. What? Scratch? Kisses? Well, kisses are nice. How about scratch? Good bird! That's a good bird. Good bird. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Anita, for saying thank you so much for doing this. I can't believe this is my first time watching, but definitely not my last. Awesome. Well, be sure to check out all of our past live streams, Anita, and we will see you next time, probably in March. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for our evening laser shows, which will be announced for the first weekend of February. And we will see you next time. I've been your Planetarium Manager, Patrick Hess. Thank you to all of you for watching, all of our returning watchers and first-time watchers. Thank you to MRI Global, our supporting sponsor, for keeping this program and all the others at Union Station going. And we've got Casey saying, go Chiefs! Thanks, Patrick and Phoebe. Rachel says she is cute. Phoebe knows it. You want to do one more scratch? 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 Good bird. There we go. Alrighty. All right. Phoebe and I are signing off. Good night, everybody. And good night. everyone. Thanks for watching. Rachel says, yay, Phoebe. Phoebe, scratch. That's right. You're really hamming it up now. Do you want a real scratch? Nope. What do you think? This is what everybody pays for. Thrilling entertainment. All right. Give everybody kisses. Kisses. Give me a kiss. Nope, she's not going to do it. I'm going to say bye-bye. Scratch. Scratch. All right, well, I think she's done performing. All right. Bye, everyone. Happy New Year. Oh, yeah. Woohoo. Phoebe. Yeah. Good bird. Good night, everybody. There we go.